we'd go around the table, introduce ourselves.
Elaine Allo, Selectman Solon.
Ray Coolin, Selectman in Portland.
Wayne Rowland, Selectman in Portland.
Tina Murray, Town Administrator.
Harold Bruce, Selectman in Anson.
John Bryant, Selectman in Anson.
Angela Hawkins, Selectman Anson.
Jim Smith, Selectman Anson.
Chuck Taylor, Selectman Embden.
All right, so we, Town of Anson kind of called this meeting, this issue, you know, a few years ago, we all signed a letter to the school boards trying to get them to work together and consolidate some things and maybe try to save some money, and that didn't seem to work. Seems like they've unconsolidated most of what they were doing. Some of my, the town keeps last year we got the budget, we was under the year before, and when the school hit us, it was $100 and something thousand, and the mill rate went up a mil, and people don't, they don't realize, they think we're spending their money foolishly, and we don't have any, seem to have any control over that bill when it comes. So I just wanted to get a feeling from the other towns, if maybe we could look into some of the, get someone from the state to come and maybe tell us what our options are with the school system, if this, what it may cost to do something different, if this is where we're at, if there isn't any options, or just what's out there.
I don't know what we can do to force the matter. I did a 10-year comparison of tax assessments in Solon over the past 10 years, and our town has gone up 14%, the county's gone up 23%, and the school's gone up 82%. So when you look at those figures, it's like towns are doing everything they can to keep their budgets low. I mean, we're not paying our employees enough. We all know that. And you steal an employee from us. I know. But something needs to be done because the school just doesn't understand. They can't keep doing this to us. Every mill rate increase we've had over the past 10 years is strictly school, strictly school.
And it just seems unsustainable. I mean, to me, it's a poor, the four towns are kind of the poor community. Poor people are paying these taxes. We had 54 people that we foreclosed on our property this year, which is 3 times what we usually do. And I think it behooves the selectmen to see if there's some way that we can save the taxpayers some money. There's $10 million, I believe, to run the school, and they're graduating 35 kids. I mean, that's, to me, it's just unsustainable.
It's like New Paltz, we're paying 800, little over 800,000, we only had 40 kids going in. And we only had 700 people in the whole thing in town.
And all I want to see is some other, if there's other options that we can save the taxpayers money. I mean, it's up to the taxpayers what they do. We're not going to decide to do anything without going to a town meetings and that sort of thing, but I think it behooves us to find out if there's other options that would save money and still the kids would get an education. I don't have any issues with the school board at this time. They're probably doing the best they can, but is this where we have to be?
I've got to say something. I had a talk with Mike Tracy the other day, seeing for something that didn't involve the schools, but we had a discussion and budget came up, and this meeting came up. I wanted to know about it. I told him he was welcome to come. He said a couple things, and I like Mike. Don't get me wrong, he's a good guy. He said a couple things that after I should have reacted at the time, but I didn't. First thing he said was, $200 or $300 increase in your taxes is for the kids. People will live with that. Well, some people can afford it. I can afford it. I'm sure you can afford it. But there's a hell of a lot of people out there who can't. $300-400 is a lot of money. The second thing he said, after I got thinking about it, really kind of pissed me off, was, well, if we cut the budget, then the towns are just gonna go raise their tax, raise the money and build something else with the money. And I don't think you guys do that. I know damn well we don't do that. So if that's the attitude, you know, that's a pretty poor attitude. And I think we ought to confront them with it.
I think it's
Because-
not a very respectful attitude.
Yeah, it's not. And I understand that, you know, you gotta do your best for the kids. Yeah, I was on the school board, I was chairman for 2 or 3 years, several years ago. And I understand what they go through, and it's a tough job. But these communities, you know, they get to the point they can't afford it. Kids, they get fewer and fewer kids in the district. I think we've got a bubble in the school, high school right now, and once it's gone, we're gonna have, what, 600 kids, 20, something like that? You know, I think we have to consider things like consolidating into one building. You know, unfortunately, when you do that, it's gonna be a cut in staff, but how else do you save money? They're in the business of educating the kids, not creating jobs. And I know that's a hard thing to say, but it's the truth. You know, we can't afford to just pay people because, you know, they're good people. You know, we need to have a staff that fits the size of the school district, and a good staff to teach the kids, and pay well. No objection to that, but I think there's some things that could be done that would save a lot of money, but they're hard things to do, and that's what the school board is.
What's the desired student-teacher ratio?
Very, can I answer? Can I answer? It varies by grade level.
Okay.
So, like for instance, if it's any more than I believe 20 to 1 in kindergarten, you're gonna hire an ed tech. The ed tech's gonna be in there full time. So it varies. The student ratio at the high schools, the student to staff ratio at the high schools. No, I mean, there's like 4 to 1. In some classes, 6 to 1. Yep.
Isn't bad, yeah. Thank you.
I think also some of it needs to be addressed at the next level, though, and we're limited what we can do. It falls up to the state on a lot of it.
That's fair.
You know, they can piss money to Portland and places that don't need it for shit they don't need, but it doesn't trickle to us.
Well, the political power stays down there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I guess, I know my thoughts are is to get someone from the state to come and tell us what, maybe some of the, other things that we could be doing as a communities, what the towns could be doing. Is there other options? Is there other ways to build this? Is there other ways to educate the kids?
Yeah, I don't see the discussion going much further than where it has already without something like that. We need some options.
Some options.
We don't have, as a group, we don't have them. I haven't been here before, but apparently others have been. And it didn't work out then, but I mean, we're in a hard shape. And we need to have some options that we can go to because they got us over a barrel. There's nothing we can do. And so we need to have some options. No matter how drastic they may seem, if we're serious about keeping our taxes down. And like I said, $300, I can pay $300 right now. 10 years maybe I can. But I know a lot of people that can't pay an extra $300 a year of taxes or an extra $100 a year of taxes.
But the flip side of that is you have 300 this year, but it was 200 last year, and 100 the year before.
Exactly.
100 the year before.
And it'll continue to escalate.
Right. You know, in 2024, I think the community schools paid off.
Right. We continue to keep our taxes low as much as we can.
Right.
I mean, we just cut out a whole bunch out of a road project because we didn't want our taxes to go up.
Well, in Solon, the selectmen made the decision this year that we've been putting off too much and we've been cutting our budget too much, and we're gonna present a budget that we need. And Solon was the only town in the district that passed the school budget both times. I defy somebody to tell me in Solon that they're not willing to pay more for services from Solon. You keep a bare budget all the time, you can't do it. You reach the point where you can't do it anymore.
Same with us.
I was just,
Lower we can go, we still can't.
And the only reason we're doing it is because, you know, the school's gonna hit us with another
That's
million
right.
increase every
Right.
single year. It's the only reason.
We're forced to the same thing, we hit unanticipated surplus to reduce our taxes to the point where it's all taxation now, but before we went on the air, this is not a new problem for us.
That's right.
It's, you know, we're 10, 12, 15 years into this thing, and it hurts. It hurts. We're fortunate to have a group of people who have, you know, that little piece of heaven around the lakes, and they write the check for $6,000 or $8,000 for using a place for 3 months out of the year. You know, but it's a double-edged sword. We're hurting. You know, Alvin, Indiana sent us a letter back in 17, you know, saying, you know, I'm convinced this matter needs to be addressed at the municipal officers level, because the school is not helping us. The school board needs to look at the teacher-student ratios. They need to start consolidating services. Something has to happen. And Madison really wanted something to happen. And, you know, it's a couple years ago.
But we, you know, this district has grown how many times? To try to merge in Bingham,
Every time.
Madison, Kingfield, and every time we had voted for it. And every time the other communities have turned it down.
It's down, that's right.
You know,
Yeah.
but I think if you took Bingham, Carmack, and Madison, and you put them in one high school, you'd still have a small high school. It would still be a small high school, but it'd be a lot better. A lot more efficient, more cost offerings.
There's a lot of new innovative teaching tools out there now. The internet has, I hear about, I don't know the exact name, but the state of Maine has teaching, there's regular classes, yet the students are taking them either at home or in small groups, in homes or in public buildings. And they're getting the same education that they get from going to school. You know, going to a building, transporting from, exaggeration, Bingham to Carraback. I mean, that's outrageous for a 7-year-old. You know, but there's innovative education techniques that are out there that need to be looked into. Like I said, online teaching, my wife and I talked about this one time, and she thought it was silly. But she grew up with a one-room schoolhouse, okay? I don't propose a one-room schoolhouse, but to bring classes down smaller with smaller staff and integrate it with the internet teaching, because they have a teacher that's teaching online. And what we have is just observers, making sure that students are doing what they're supposed to and that kind of thing, but more in a smaller group. You know, you can do away with a large building because you don't need it. I mean, how many of these big buildings do we need anymore? And to think that we're going to grow again is a fantasy. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So to think about the innovations that are out there that the internet has brought us, you know, but it has to be talked about, and we have to get some professional help to know what's out there.
Can I say something?
My name is Jan Welch. I'm a select person from Embden. Sorry I'm late. And Jim, what you're talking about, I teach in Farmington. I'm a school counselor over there. And we've tried the internet stuff.
Okay.
It's tough. It has to be a very, very motivated kid. It's very hard to supervise. It's very, but when I went to Farmington, I graduated from Carraback, really, I taught at Stank High School. Another school that's going down the drain. That's why I left. I'll tell tell you, I went to Farmington and I thought, holy cow, this is overwhelming. It's so big. But the kids aren't. Like, you don't notice there are 12 towns feed Mount Lou. It's a huge district, but it's 12 small towns. And those kids, they keep their small town status. And it offers so much because it's all in one place. You know, so it offers so much for kids. I mean, the languages, the tech center, and it's all because they're all they come from Weld. They put a 7-year-old on a bus from Weld and Carthage and Canton. And they make it to school okay. You know, they have bus monitors and all that, but it works.
It's just a suggestion, that's all.
Yeah.
Just, you know, that's what we need is
Yeah.
the discussion on what can work, what maybe can't work, but,
They've been doing that kind of thing for several years, even in this area. They cut the AP passes at the bottom and top on an online thing. And they had, when I taught one year in Madison after I retired from them, and they had Colton Campbell was over teaching math from Skowhegan into television systems in Madison and some other towns. So it's not a new concept, it's being done somewhat.
right.
But nowadays you can get a college degree online. But like you said, you gotta be motivated to do it. Yeah.
But if you're putting that together with a smaller group, in a smaller building, the two combined, you have the teachers there that are motivating the children to do what they're supposed to do. You know, and just a thought, that's all. Just to get some thought movement, that's all.
But there was that meeting, was it last spring at the school, about the future of the school? Was it last spring or
Yeah,
last winter? or
Strategic plan.
Yeah, the strategic plan
Yeah.
thing, yeah. And that was one of the things that groups brought up, is that let's do more of the computer classroom, you know, the computer training classrooms, so we can eliminate some of that staff. And you would just need a tech head in that classroom to supervise and make sure the kids are paying attention to the teacher
Right.
on the screen. And that hasn't gone anywhere. A lot of suggestions we had that were cost-saving suggestions have not gone anywhere.
When we've got a teacher-student ratio of 1 to 4, that's kind of a waste of a teacher.
Even 1 to 20, I'm sorry.
That's-
I had classrooms at 35.
So I feel like I need to speak on that. I've spoke to my selectmen about it numerous times, and the board. I've been very vocal about it. Not well taken, but I think that we're missing the fact that we're 8 miles from another high school. There's no reason, in my opinion, and in my experience with our district and our budgets, there's no reason that we should even be talking about closing schools, consolidating high schools, all of that, although I think that would be great down the road. There is an immediate way to cut major costs. And that is, if we have a teacher with teaching 4 kids in our high school, and Madison has a teacher teaching 4 kids in their high school, and it's a similar class, guess what? That teacher can get in their car and drive 8 miles, and you immediately cut your cost of your teacher salary in half. I mean, these are major savings just like that. The problem is, and I will be completely honest with you, we have a board of 15 board members, and it is not getting past our board.
Right.
Period. That is 100% honest with you. And I've been honest with my selectmen about that for at least a year. There are definitive ways that we can cut our budget while increasing our opportunities for our kids, but it has to pass our board.
Right. And it's
So I would urge you to lean on your board members as far as that goes, because openly with you, there are ways to increase opportunities for our kids and immediately cut our costs without closing schools, without consolidating districts, while maybe down the line that might be an option. Right now, there's a very easy solution that doesn't disrupt kids. I mean, you're not disrupting anybody. You're not busing anybody different. You're not disrupting families. You're not politically making an uproar. Shouldn't be. You're asking a teacher to get in a car, grab a coffee on the way, and drive 8 miles and teach the other half of the day somewhere else.
But that's been the problem is, our school board, Madison School Board, Bingham School Board, it won't get past the school boards. Right? I mean, we've had that discussion many, many times. So it's not just ours. You know, it's everybody in the area who wants to lose their little piece of the pie, human state.
One more thing. I agree with that, 100%. The only way that the boards are going to hear you is if you don't pass the budget. I didn't vote for the budget once last year. There was a reason for that. I will not vote for a budget in this district until I feel that our kids are getting the opportunities that they should for a $10 million budget, when I know that it can be lower for our taxpayers and give the kids better opportunities. I will not do it.
That's it.
And the townspeople should need it.
But I think one way we can maybe stand together would be to make the vote the same day as the June vote for the states. When the school board has, the school budget has its own little special day, only teachers and school staff turn out to vote for it.
I agree with that.
If you did it on the
100%.
June state election day
Yeah.
and required that,
And it saves money,
it would
Right.
save
The
money
vote.
and there'd be other people turning out.
and you get a turnout, because you're right, they have a little turn. Go to the budget meeting, how many people go to the budget meeting? Be honest with you, I haven't.
All school and staff, except
Yeah.
for me and Chuck and Jan. And you know, that way. And we're the only ones who stand up and say anything
Right.
about the budget, or ask questions and question why are you
Well, we gotta,
spending so
you know,
much?
maybe we gotta get people to go. And I think there's a feeling it's no use because all the teachers are there, they're gonna pass it anyway. That's the feeling.
That's
But if
the
you get enough people to go,
And they will eventually.
you know,
They'll do it enough times, it'll pass. It's hard to find.
Right.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
just keep hammering and finally they're not gonna get the turnout and you're gonna have more teachers and faculty.
but if you go to a budget meeting and approve a budget and make the cuts there, and then vote on it and approve it with a vote, it's a budget. So it can be done. But you gotta get people to do it.
You gotta get people to the budget meeting to be willing to vote to cut the budget that's presented, and that's really
And then you go
hard
and
to do.
vote to confirm it.
Yeah, it's really hard to do. We end up with
Yeah.
like 10 against 50.
I will say in defense of a couple of our board members, one who's here, I know that some things were talked about at the meeting and he heard it loud and clear, and he did take it back to the board, the school board, but it didn't go anywhere. But he did take it back. And that was that it was, taxes were going up too much, that look at, you know, something to cut, but so.
Are school board members told, just a question, are school board members told that they're there to represent the students or the taxpayers? I've been told that they've been told they're not there to represent the taxpayers at all. I'm asking you.
Me?
Yes.
I believe, don't quote me on camera. I believe that our statement says something along the lines of putting the students first while being fiscally responsible. That's not word, that's not word for word, but that, so students first, taxpayers second, and I really believe that there are ways that we can do this simultaneously. We're at stop blocks every single time that we talk about anything at the board level. I think that consolidating different things makes sense. And where we can't and where it will impact students too much, don't. Share teachers, share staff, share superintendent, for crying out loud.
Share bus service.
Yes. So-
We tried that, and nobody wants to share. Nobody likes to come to the sandbox.
Well, here's my thing.
Nobody wants to share.
I think that if you have very strong boards that should be unified in what is best for our taxpayers and our students, and they continue to drive that, I mean, the superintendents work for us, not the other way around. So if we are unified in saying, this is what we want, and we're not gonna accept anything less, then that's what happens. But we have to consistently do that, and we don't.
Well, we can't fill a board.
We got a big.
We are vacancies.
Yeah, we have a problem in Portland.
Yeah, we have nobody running.
Quite honestly, it's stressful.
Somebody's got a phone.
No,
That's the issue, you're taking anybody.
You can't get anybody.
And the ones we have running, they've been there for, well, 2 of them have been there for a while, and one, so, just a few years now, but still, it's, they're not putting the taxpayer first.
And honestly, I don't feel that we're putting the students' opportunities first either. I haven't felt like that for a while. So, I think that there are definite changes that need to happen. I'm happy that you guys had this meeting tonight. I think it's important, and I don't think that we give up on what we truly believe for our taxpayers and our kids.
Tammy, are you still on board?
No, I was on.
You did. But there's a wealth of information right there.
Yes, which is
Knows everything
amazing.
about the system.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And it would be
I
great
do.
If she can be on, involved in these discussions, it's important.
I agree with Arnold. I think bring someone from the state and inform you guys on what needs to be looked at and what doesn't. And I agree with Bobby Sue. There are things that probably can be done now for this budget, because honestly, it takes time to do any of those things. But from being in the position I'm in, I do hear from a lot of the taxpayers. And if anybody knows me, I'm wholeheartedly for kids' education and programs for them. I agree with Bobby Sue. I don't think they get the programs they need right now. And I think it's only going to get worse down the pipe. And they got to do less with less money, but you got to figure that out. Everybody has to do that. The mill went out. Everybody's doing less with less, so everybody's got to figure that out, and maybe all work together, and they would come out on top for the kids instead of trying to piece everything together and hoping it works.
I urge everyone at the table to come to the meeting. I've been on the board 4 or 5 years, and I've never had a call from anyone on the any selectmen to ask me a question. Okay, Jan, from my town then. Okay, sorry. I have from Embden. And I would be more than glad to find out anything that you guys have a question on. And I've never had that.
Your board.
And I don't see a lot of people at a board meeting, and that's where you're gonna find out things.
Your board.
And I'm sorry, Chuck?
They conflict with our meeting, select board meeting. We got the same evenings.
And I've gone to board meetings, and you can talk during the citizen part of it, but that's not when you're getting down to the meat and potatoes part of it, where they're talking about actual issues. You as a citizen can't talk about that.
No, but you
And they
can,
shut you right down to it, they don't want to.
but you can certainly give me a call if there's something that you see is an issue. I mean, I certainly,
The transportation thing, why did we leave the transportation thing with Madison? Don't tell me we saved money.
say that again?
We gave up our transportation agreement with Madison. Don't tell me we saved money by doing that. That's cost us money. Why did we do that? Why did the school board vote to get out of our agreements with Madison on the transportation issue?
Call the superintendent.
I did. and
Okay.
I got a runaround.
I mean, I'm not at one, I don't think it would be a runaround.
It was a song.
Okay, well, that's, I'm sorry for that. I don't know that I honestly do not know that we could save money if we had our own garage.
You don't save money by having your own garage. Not when there's one right here in Madison that's staffed.
We still do it
You
through
can't have-
Madison.
You can't have a garage with one person in it. You have to have at least 2 men in a garage, because a lot of times.
So what are you asking? I guess I don't know what you're asking.
Why did we get out of our agreement with Madison?
With the transportation director, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Because our maintenance contract is still,
Yeah, the
as
maintenance
of this
contract is still
moment,
there.
valid.
Right,
But
but they were doing
the
that bus
transportation
route, so they were.
He resigned. They still do our maintenance.
He resigned because he had outside pressure put on him.
It wasn't a simple, see, that's the story that I got. He resigned, but the backstory is he didn't really resign. He was being pressured.
Troy, were you satisfied with the maintenance work that's being done over there? Because I heard that
You know, I don't, I mean, you know, we had some buses flunk their
their inspection,
inspections.
but all that's passed.
What's that?
All of Madison's passed.
That I don't know. I mean, I'm concerned with our stuff. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I think we had a 40% failure rate out of service on our buses. So I would say that that's not good.
No.
I wouldn't want that for my trucks.
But that's not the transportation director's.
No.
position that she's talking about. You filled that, the school board filled that with a couple people, which cost more than what was there before. So I think Elaine's trying to say that why did the board make that decision and it ended up costing the district money to replace one person?
I think the stipend is the same for that job.
No, that's not true.
That's not true. That's what they tried to tell me.
For the transportation director, what is the
I don't know
what is the
his
pay?
bed is. I don't know what it's.
The biggest problem is when someone has an agenda, they have a personal agenda, and board members come to the board meetings with their personal agendas. This is why these things are happening, and this is why the school district is in the position that they're in right now. Because you have certain people that group together, and that things are happening that should not be happening. You should not have relatives in there. You should not, for instance, one of the positions, the person got done from the board and immediately went into a position. That by law was never supposed to happen. You're supposed to be off the board for at least a year. So it's these types of things that are happening that is causing this district to be in the situation that they're in. It's the good old boys club.
I questioned that when that happened, and I was told that was just interim until we hire somebody else.
Didn't matter if it was interim or not, there was a policy
That's what I said.
that you're not supposed to do that.
That's what I said.
But until people go in there for the reason that they are being elected into those positions, these towns will continue to be in that same situation.
So Myron, who would you call from, you said something about the state.
Well, the state has people, I don't know, other towns have had, the districts that have had questions, they get somebody from the state, and the state knows a lot about the school district, what goes on.
You mean the Maine Department of Education
Yeah.
or
At the commissioner's
the
office.
commissioner?
Main School Services or one of those departments.
Back when we were being forced to do the whole consolidation thing, those guys came to our meeting and ran all these different numbers. If you do with this one, if you do with that one, it's gonna cost this and this and this, and did all.
And that's
and
what
they
I'd like to
put
see
those
is
numbers there.
if we was to do
And they
things
helped
different.
Athens, and Athens withdraw from the district, they helped Athens figure out the best way
Right.
to do it.
I'm not talking about withdrawal, I'm not talking about anything, I'm talking about seeing the options.
Well, it might be cheaper to tuition all our students.
Well,
It's
we don't
getting to
know
that
that, I
point.
mean,
We talked about it.
Yeah,
and if it's just a little bit cheaper, or is it a lot cheaper, is it, what is it?
yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's an unfair
Or is it
question.
more expensive? You
Is
don't
it
know.
more expensive?
Yeah, you don't know.
We
until you look
don't
at it.
know until we see some figures.
Well, we have 4 schools around Solon. We could go to Athens, we could go to Bingham, we could go to Madison, we can go to Caravan.
Yeah.
It's all the same distance to us.
And we could go to Mount Blue, I mean, places like Mount Blue and Skowhegan, like you're talking about, the programs that are over there for the kids is tremendous. Well,
And Mount Abram for New Portland. I mean, it's getting harder and harder to justify coming and sending our kids to Caribbean High School when the education could possibly be better at a high school in the opposite direction. So what I'm trying to make our board realize is we need better opportunities for kids while being fiscally responsible, which is what our statement says. And I think that we need to do a better job of that. I personally have heard you guys for years say that. I've been at all of the meetings with Madison and all the towns, the meeting in Solon, with Bingham and Madison. I heard you all loud and clear. It doesn't go to fruition from that point. Once we have our board meetings, one, we don't see any of you guys, which I've told my selectmen, we really need to see townspeople and selectmen, especially at our budget meetings, because, I mean, if for nothing else, for your elected officials who are sitting up there trying and being shot down every step of the way for years. So if for nothing else, to support those people who are trying to do the best for the kids while being financially responsible for the taxpayers.
And one thing we could do is, you know, there's a bunch of us, and we're not all here, is to get the family, get your friends, and get them together and go to the main budget meeting.
Yes. And the budget meeting is leading up to the public hearing.
Because if there's 50 teachers and staff there, we could bring 60 or 100 if it really got organized.
And there was just recently, that group that wanted to stop the CMP corridor, we went to that meeting at Caravat, and I didn't know 90% of them people, never seen them before. I mean, there was dozens and dozens of people that organization leader got to go there. That's how you take care of that stuff. Somebody that cares. And it was one person. Not two people. I don't know how many people were involved in that, but they packed that place because they wanted their way. And that's what has to be done. You're absolutely right. And the great thing about this country still is, if you don't like the board, let's get somebody else in there.
Run yourself.
Run yourself, have people back you. What do you want? You know, I mean,
I really didn't come here tonight to speak, I swear to God. It just happened.
I was wondering why you're sitting in the corner.
I really was not planning on saying a word. So I do just want to give you some quick public, we've lost over 23 students from the time in enrollment last year to October 1 of 2019.
Where'd they go? I know where.
The majority of them went to the charter school. I mean, the charter school is sending a bus into our district, or very close, and I mean,
How many of your students from the Portland North is at 58?
about half.
20 some odd kids. Wow. Yeah, 28.
Well, half are going somewhere else.
Right.
Okay.
So that might be Mount Blue, Mount
Yeah.
Abram, charter school, but they're going other places than Caravat High School.
Yeah, my grandson went to Mount Blue, and I'm telling you, it's amazing over there. Programs they got. And, you know, I really believe that if the three towns in this area, the three districts in this area would consolidate, the state would build us a new high school.
Yeah.
In a minute, in a separate location.
We
It
We
would
had
have a lot of those
conversations.
need
programs.
a new high school. I mean, Caravat and Madison, neither one are that far from anybody. You choose one of them.
Or you make one a vocational center
I
and.
mean, you know,
Yeah.
you'd have some of the programs, not all of them, we're not big enough to be as big as Mount Blue or Scotty.
I don't want to
But
go
you
to
still
that
have-
school. We have 4 schools in our district that are good. They have, what, 2 or 3? They have the middle school, elementary school, and a high school.
Yes.
And the high school, their high school's new, fairly new, well,
Yeah.
new, relatively new. I mean,
All three of
building
them?
another, we don't need to build another school. We just need to consolidate. We really do need to consolidate with Madison and combine. That's the only way we're going to save money, and that's to do a full consolidation. Because you can say, well, we're going to try to do this, and it's not going to happen, not until you fully consolidate. And that would be moving kids, the high school kids to one school, and then maybe doing tech at another school, or even at that school.
We tried. Maybe we need to try
I
again.
know, we need to
Yeah.
try again. When I tell my taxpayers at town meeting, 82% increase over 10 years for the school budget, and nobody here goes to the school board meetings, or to the school budget meeting. Unless you work for the school, those are the only ones who show up, so they
Well,
better
that's
not vote against my municipal budget.
That's why I have
$200.
the June primary. You have an election anyway. So you don't have to have a special election that you gotta pay people to run. And you're gonna get a bigger turnout, especially this year, you've got election year.
I think we should all send a letter, each of us towns should send a letter demanding that it's on the June primary day, school budget vote. And they'll say, well, we won't have enough time if it doesn't pass. Well, if it doesn't pass, and July 1st comes, you just revert to the last year's budget, so it doesn't matter. There's plenty of money in the last year's budget.
Bobby?
I mean, I agree with that, and I've actually said that numerous years. It just doesn't go anywhere. So I think that that is a good idea, and I do think that whole consolidation, we definitely should be looking at that with 600 kids pre-K to 12 in our, towns. So I think that that is worth looking at, but we're starting budget meetings in a little over a month. And so that's not gonna happen this year. But what I'm saying is that there are things that can happen this year that move in that direction so that you're not just saying, okay, as of September 1st of this year, everything's gonna be consolidated and all the kids are gonna be together. And I think that there's an easier transition, and I think that it needs to start, it should have started 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but I think that it needs to start now to transition into, we've never had a 5-year plan, a solid 5-year plan, ever, in all the years that I've been on the board, which is 8 or 9, never. We need one. I feel like I should have like a replay button.
The stages are been set for the timeline. I don't know if you got the email the other day, but May 5th is a referendum. Okay, they got a ton of meetings prior to. Okay, you got.
Well, I think if we send him a letter saying we refuse to hold it in our town except for primary day.
We can make a motion to change anything on our timeline. It's just like
What
that.
can change that?
And I believe that's a request to the town. It's up to the selectmen when we have an election. I think it's I don't think they can demand that we have an election on that day.
And we've, as a town clerk, it's easier for all towns if it was in June because you're having your workers there, it's just easier.
Just everybody's already there.
Yeah.
You just handing the people an extra ballot.
Especially for
and an extra
absentee
box of
voting and
ballots.
stuff, you're not dealing with 2 different elections going and everything. It's just easier for everybody involved if it would be in June.
The further you push it into the year, then you gotta worry about committing your taxes and getting those things out. So, they're gonna bring it back. They'll keep bringing it back.
Yeah, they'll
You
keep
know.
bringing it back, and you just, if we need to get our taxes out, we do it with the last year's budget amount, that's all. And that's what they'll have to live with until the following year, and we make up the difference. Like when they made the mistake on theirs a couple of years ago, when they made the mistake, they told us how much we were supposed to put aside, and we'd already committed taxes, so they had to wait till the following year to get the difference.
And you held it?
Yeah,
Wow.
we'd already committed taxes. I wasn't gonna send out a supplemental tax bill for their mistake and pay for that cost. No.
So has anybody ever seen the bylaws to the school district? Or the letters of incorporation or any of that? We asked, I don't know, a week ago, and did we get that answer from everybody we've talked to up there?
I even asked Mitch.
I'm just curious what rules we're supposed to.
It must be filed with the state?
Well, I would think they would be.
No, they're not. The bylaws on the certification of when the district was formed was filed with the state, and that's what the district just sent me, and they wrote on it bylaws, but I confirmed with the state today, and those are not the bylaws. I had that in my file, actually. I pulled the 1969 book out and found the same thing the state just sent me. There should be bylaws that you're kind of governed. You do follow state law, but just like the sanitary district has bylaws, the firefighters have bylaws. I'm assuming the school district sets some bylaws. One of the emails said they thought it was at the Garrett Skank School. I don't know if they've actually looked to see if they're there yet, but if they do have them, that would be a great thing, Troy, if you could try to find those, because that would kind of give, to see how it was formed and maybe help when they have a state meeting.
Had you ever been asked for them in all the years you were on the board?
No, that's something to me, well, I don't work, when you're a school board member, you're not working in the superintendent's office. To me, the superintendent's office is the keeper of the records and should probably have those records. Just like when you come here, I'm the keeper of your death records, your birth records and everything. So, the selectmen wouldn't have them, but I would have them. So I'm assuming the same thing would be for school districts. So where they are, I don't know. I know there's been a lot of different superintendents and they've moved and everything.
No, I just was wondering if anyone had ever asked for them and not got them 10 years ago or
I
5
don't know if
years
they
ago.
had
or-
them when the schools closed and everything in New Portland or what they were going by then either. You have different
What about
superintendents
Mr.
now.
Hatch? What about Mr. Rogers?
I will give Mr. Hatch a call.
Yeah,
Maybe he would know.
I will,
Regina may
I will
know.
do that.
Rod might know, he's,
And Regina may know too.
Ron would be that farther or Solid, I mean, he ran a Solid office.
So, does that seem like something we want to do, is get someone from the state to help us? I mean, we can kind of facilitate it here. And maybe see what the options are for each town, what the cost might be to do something different. I think the school board wouldn't mind knowing that too. Of course.
and there's another approach, the legislative approach. Maybe we should be inviting our local representatives to come to these meetings. Once we have an idea of what we want to do, there may be some changes in the laws that can help us.
You're not gonna get more money out of the legislature.
I'm not talking about getting more money necessarily. I'm talking about maybe making some changes that need to be made that aren't monetary.
Yeah, it may lead to something like that. Sure.
There is one thing that when I'm on the school board that amazes me, and it's called unfunded mandates.
Yeah.
And that is, I just, it is, I don't want to say that it's pathetic, but it is. And that is what a lot of stuff that you have to work within the confines, it's a law. And if you don't do this, you don't get your state money, you don't get your federal money. And I urge you to look at some of those. And that's when you want to talk with your legislators about changing some of that stuff.
We have unfunded mandates. We have lots of unfunded mandates on the towns too. That's how the state does it. There's a state law that they can't do an unfunded mandate, that if they require something of you, they have to pay it, but there's ways they get around it.
But we pay it. I mean, we pay it. I mean, I pay taxes. I mean, I don't, you know, I'm on the school board. It goes like this. I pay a lot of taxes in Embden, and I pay a lot of taxes in North Anson. And I love our community. So, but it isn't just at this level. So doing what you're doing, that is a good start, and thank you for doing that.
All right, anything else?
I heard some other things though. I heard attending meetings, getting somebody to attend meetings. If we can't attend it, maybe find somebody that will go. So the school board has some support too. Because I think some of them are feeling like they need some support. Support, I hear a lot of support for our kids, which is awesome. We want our kids to have the best, right? And that should be the bottom line. How do we get our kids the best without breaking the bank? So we have the legislature, the state, attending meetings.
And educate yourselves. Go online and punch up your ED 279 for different school districts, you know, Mount Abram and Madison, and see the pay structure. See what, you know, they've got everything on that report, that ED 279.
I think a lot of people think when you're going to consolidate things that you're going to lose your identity. I don't believe that. That's a hard thing for a lot of local people to believe.
When
Your
you're
roots can always be your roots.
Yeah, you can't.
I mean, but there comes a time at some point, they gotta, we had more things consolidated years ago than we do right now. When all these guys met 2 or 3 years ago, you had more consolidation then than you do right now.
Yes.
And all of you board members know that. So I think that's part of the problem. And hopefully everybody works together, including the towns, the school boards, the kids. Ask them what they want to do. I actually wish people would actually listen to the kids a little more sometimes. And they might realize that it's harder on the adults than it is the kids for change. They'll go with the flow.
Yeah, the kids don't mind, it's the adults who have the rivalries with.
Right, the kids will go with the flow.
Yes.
I think that it's important to note these aren't quick fixes either.
No.
It's not, you make a decision to consolidate, and then if it's not working in a year or two, then you just do away with it. Like, all of that work that everybody has put in to get to that point, it's not, well, it doesn't go down the drain. You work on it and you build on it, and if it's existing, then you build on what is there. You don't tear it down. I mean, there are plenty of things that could be done with the things that are consolidated, that were consolidated 2 years ago, that could have built on those.
Anything else?
So do we want to all send letters in the end of the June primary date for
Yes,
the school
we should.
budget?
Yeah.
I think we should. Says we want the budget meeting.
The budget vote on primary day,
Right.
and that's the only day we'll allow in our town.
If we have the right to do that, let's do it.
But they tell us we don't. I mean, we hired the staff to hold voters. If they want to hire their own staff, and they can, but our town clerk runs the vote.
I don't
The
think,
selectmen tell them what.
I don't think they can hold a vote separate from the town. I don't think they can.
No, and I don't think they can tell the town when to have it,
Well,
my feeling. But
Regardless of the fact, if you have rights to do that, you're asking for a pretty simple thing, and we should do that. Because our goal is to reach the most amount of citizens and taxpayers. There's 70% taxpayers in our district that don't have kids in our buildings. That's a fact that came out of that strategic planning, 70%. So we want to reach as many of those as possible. And if more of them are going to come out for primary day, then it makes sense to do the school vote so that they can have their say on that day too. They only have to get one ride to the voting booth, not two. They only have, so
one of your board members gonna bring it to you.
I'll make a motion again. I've made it almost every year, but I'll do it again.
The powers that be, it is not coincidence that they vote on a different day. It is planned.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Yes.
Totally.
Because of the very reasons I've heard in this room,
Yes.
because nobody else goes, so there will definitely be pushback. But we gotta remember that we need to take this and go to the school board to help them.
Please.
Not to be aggressive, but to help. We need to help you, we need to help each other to make this work and not be aggressive about it, because it won't work.
But we need to, if we're gonna say we want that.
Oh, no.
We need to stick together.
Absolutely, that
We need to stick together.
particular, yes, I agree. But as a whole, what we're doing, it needs to be to help both the towns and the schools.
Troy.
I don't feel that you would ever get any pushback from the board.
Because the voting.
I do not
Well,
think that I really don't. And I think that that's, I don't think that's right to say that.
oh yeah, it's planned that way. Because
You vote, they give you a date and you vote on it. I've never said, can we change it to this day? And I don't remember I don't ever remember hearing that either. Because you do.
I send a letter just about every year to the superintendent.
And you know what, that letter I have never seen that letter. I think I have no issues with that. I don't think that there's gonna be a pushback on the board from that. Do you think there would be?
You'll
I
see.
know that there would be, and since you've been on the board, there has been, because I have specifically brought up that topic, which is exactly why board meetings should be filmed from now on, every single one. The only law that I am aware of, as far as our budget validation vote, is that it has to be the same exact times, and it has to be the same day in all of the towns within the district. So the voting booths have to be open the same times
Right.
and day. That's the only law that I'm aware of.
And we're all doing it on the primary.
But the hours have to align, so I don't know if like our voting hours are the same as Anson's, so we may have to extend them.
On
or-
primary day, it's the same hours.
Okay.
The state sets
They
those
would be all,
hours.
the state does that.
Yeah.
I know that it'll save money.
Yeah, we wouldn't be sending the bill to the school district to pay us for us.
Which really is the taxpayers paying for it.
Yep, it is, but I said at the
I know.
point,
I know.
if you didn't do it on this day, you wouldn't have to pay this bill.
So is there a date or time that we're gonna look for if you guys want me to contact?
Well, we could find out when we can get somebody to come
Okay.
and maybe get some on a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk as well at the school board now, about what we're doing. We're not trying to,
No.
I do.
cut anybody's legs off or.
No, would like to offer more information, just please ask, and if I can't answer, I will certainly find out.
Yeah. We all set?
We should start saying that probably Thursday night.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm past it.
Again, whatever works for
Yeah,
everybody.
really.
No,
For us,
No,
for
no,
us, it's Monday or Tuesday.
just get a link.
So I'll declare that we're adjourned.
And I'm